Today we are going to be watching a psychedelic Orthodox priest completely destroy evolution and the Big Bang. That's right, after this video, you will no longer think science is real. So let's watch this video and see what we can make of it.
The way that the human mind is wired is we're trying to always figure things out. We always
Yes.
question things,
Yes.
and so we need hard logistical answers. So I want to touch the topic of evolution, which is something that's taught at a very early age, and especially in Western societies and pretty much maybe all over the world.
Look at this guy. Now, you will see why I call him the psychedelic Orthodox priest very quickly. I mean, look at this getup. Isn't this phenomenal? Isn't this fantastic? This guy is like Rasputin brought back to life and given some incredible garb. If you watch his videos, they are also incredibly fascinating because they are very tripped out. I mean, like, it's legitimately like doing psychedelics watching this guy's videos. So I recommend that just for that because it is quite fantastic.
World at this point, since like 6th to 7th to 8th grade, I was learning about evolution in my charter school. And
In the South, that is not really the case. In the South, at least in America, they don't really teach evolution so much. They might mention it in passing, but I mean, West Virginia, for example, recently passed a law that allows the teaching of intelligent design in schools. Theoretically, it can't really do that because that is illegal since intelligent design is religion. But there were some incredible videos from that hearing where one guy said, evolution is a declining theory that's about to be thrown out. This is a actual West Virginia senator saying this, so that gives you an idea of what attitudes can be like, even in the West that these people demonize. By the way, evolution is taught in Iranian schools. It's mandatory. Iranian schools are beating us there.
so with everything we see today, dinosaur bones, historical findings,
Yes.
caves, all of these things, the way that the dirt builds up over time and we're able to tell how old the soil is and carbon dating, all these technologies and research and theories pop up, right? The Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
Is it wrong as a Christian to believe in evolution? Because before you answer, this is the way that I process it. I refused to believe in evolution when I was a kid. Refused, absolutely. Because
Evolution is not a belief. Neither is the Big Bang. The Big Bang happened. Evolution happened. These are what you would call facts, not beliefs. To believe in something, generally speaking, it has to not be something you can prove with evidence.
heard people talking about it, and so I automatically rejected it because of the way that my parents brought me up and what was said in the churches. So I was very closed-minded. Then with all these evidences being presented,
Evidences. They always say evidences. I'm going to have to put that on a coffee mug or something.
I thought, you know what, maybe, what if God actuated the process of evolution to give our human minds, because he knew one day we're going to try to figure out where we came from, how we came from.
Yes.
He gave us something for the non-believers to grasp onto, because what happens if you don't believe in God? You said it earlier, you believe in something else. So some people make it government, some people make it theory, some people make it mathematics or another person or
Religious.
their idols.
Yes.
Some people make it evolution.
Yes.
So
No, no, not at all. Not everybody needs some religious impulse, really. I do not believe in evolution. Evolution is just a fact. I don't really have beliefs as such. Pretty much everything I think comes down to having evidence. Now, there are some things, very rarely, that I do, quote-unquote, believe. Like, I think Nietzsche is very good, philosophically speaking, in a lot of senses. I think the Stoics are. Do I believe in them? Well, no. I think they work very well practically, but do I believe in them? Well, of course not. Is that a religious thing for me? Well, of course not. I do agree to some extent that the religious impulse is sort of ingrained in humanity as a community-building impulse, but I see no reason why we can't replace religion with communities in general. I mean, there are communities for everything. I think punk has been a really great community for me. Is that my religion? Well, no, it's just a community. So really, it's not a religious impulse, it's a community impulse, and religion is just one aspect of that.
what is your stance on evolution? Does my theory about God actuating evolution, is that something that's possible, or is that just completely off? I'm wrong. Tell me to my face. I'd love to hear it.
First of all, evolution comes from someone who was a member of the Round Table.
Like Knights of the Round Table, like King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table.
What can you tell that to everybody who doesn't know?
Someone, without going into too much details, those who know what the Round Table is and where it came from, they will see someone who was a non-believer in God, an atheist who was deliberately trying their hardest to brainwash people and take humanity away from the concept of this divine God who is the
Is he talking about Darwin or his grandfather Erasmus Darwin or somebody else entirely? Who is a member of this mysterious round table, which I guess is some anti-God conspiracy? I mean, Darwin was the most pivotal individual figure in the history of evolutionary thought, but when he first started his journey that would lead to him discovering the idea of evolution by natural selection, what he became most famous for, he was still a Christian as far as I'm aware, and only later on became an agnostic and never ended up an atheist. It was not Charles Darwin's goal to turn the world into an atheist place. He did not have that in mind because he himself was not an atheist.
reason for the existence of this universe and life in general. So that's one. Secondly, let's say everything came into existence because something exploded over 13 billion years ago. I just wonder who was present 13 billion years ago?
Well, nobody. We're not saying anybody was there to personally observe the Big Bang happening. But we do have mountains of evidence for it. Cosmic inflation is a good example of this. The redshift of galaxies as they move away from us faster and faster due to the expansion of space. Turns out you reverse that space and eventually you end up with all matter at one singular point, a singularity, if you will. And beyond that, we have other forms of evidence for the Big Bang, like the cosmological microwave background radiation, which you can look up right now. It's a pretty incredible thing. Go check it out if you've never seen it before.
Was it that scientist or his uncle or his grandpa? In the scientific field, if it's a
No, I mean, technically, a Catholic priest came up with the idea of the Big Bang. So, I mean, why is he reducing it to just a scientist? Like, is the science some grand conspiracy? Oh, wait, let me answer that. Of course it is to these people.
theory, I'm not obligated to accept it and believe in it. Therefore, don't force it on me.
Okay, so theory has a couple different definitions. One is the colloquial version, which is just a guess, basically. You know, I have a theory that this man isn't very bright and is full of conspiracies. That's a pretty good guess, I'd say, but that's very different from a scientific theory, which is a thing that explains a scientific fact. The theory of gravitation explains the fact of gravity. Likewise, the theory of evolution explains the fact of evolution. The theory of the Big Bang explains the Big Bang, the factual event that we know occurred. Of course, creationists and Christians in general often get these terms very wrong because they only really know of the colloquial version, that is to say, a guess, which is why my guess is this guy isn't very bright.
It's a theory. So even the one who wrote it, he said, I think it's this. Well, you
Wrong. Wrong. I love how committed priests are to being wrong. It's as old as time itself, isn't it, folks?
think, I don't have to accept it.
Right.
So a theory is a theory. Live
Nobody's saying he has to accept anything in particular. I mean, he believes enough fantastical stuff as it is. I'd say his brain is full up on just nonsense, so I don't think he has to accept anything he doesn't want to. You're free, my guy, to just be all in on your fantasy nonsense.
Leave it to yourself. Don't teach it at university levels and don't brainwash all these beautiful young men and women and take them away from God. How dare you do this? But again, the educational
So, because I don't think evolution is, because I think science is fake, you should not be able to teach science at school. If there's a science class, well, we're not going to teach that. We're just going to put some Jesus in the curriculum, is basically what he's getting at here.
system is infiltrated. So as the religious sector, so as the entertainment, and so on.
We are getting into some QAnon, satanic cabals control Hollywood stuff. Classic stuff. The modern version of blood libel, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary friends.
Now, if we assume that all this perfect and complex universe came into this because
Well, first of all, I would ask, what exactly is perfect about it? It's really cool. I will admit it's very magnificent, but perfect, I think, is pushing it.
Something exploded? Then let me put it to you this way, my dear friend, whoever you are. And I'll say, you're my friend. Because
Well, order comes from chaos all the time. I mean, we can observe today in the universe protoplanetary disks. What are protoplanetary disks, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, protoplanetary disks are where planets and stars are forming. I mean, that's where our solar system came from. It is the beginning of a solar system, a little teeny tiny baby solar system. And how do those start, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked again. They start from large clouds of gas and dust, basically becoming massive enough, dense enough, to form the first little stars in these clouds. And then, after these stars are formed, other clumps of matter become planets and comets and asteroids. It's magnificent. And again, we can observe this today happening in the universe, all around us. It's happening in a lot of places, and that comes from just gas and dust. Planets, stars, solar systems. I mean, star systems, not solar systems. Solar system only refers to our solar system, but star systems are the result of they are an emergent process of gas, dust, and the natural laws of the universe, all working together. We can observe this today. Of course, our humble psychedelic priest has no idea about any of that.
because I mean it. If I say to you as an intellectual individual that the Oxford
You're not going to be saying anything to me as an intellectual individual, but nice try, my guy.
Dictionary came into this perfection and complexity because something exploded in the printing press, would you accept that?
No, because we know how that comes about through human processes. We don't see the same for the universe. They like to harp on improbability, these incredible odds, how things could possibly turn out this way. But let me pose a question here. What are the odds that every grain of sand on the planet Earth could have ended up in the position it is right now at this very second? It's an incredibly low chance, isn't it? What's the chance? Well, I mean, technically it had to be 100% since it's happened, but what are the odds? What are the odds, let's say, of that happening? What are the odds that all of the grains of sand on the planet would be in their current positions? Extraordinarily low, and yet there they are.
You'll say that is absurd. It's impossible. The moment you think of the Oxford Dictionary, immediately you think of a brain behind it that put it together.
Yes, because humans created that. We know how that happened.
An intelligent being that put this dictionary together.
Well, when I see people like our psychedelic priest, I kind of wonder, what the upper limit of that intelligence is exactly.
If the Oxford Dictionary did not come into existence unless there was a brain behind it, how much more this complex universe? So you're telling me...
What exactly about the universe being complex makes it necessitate a brain being behind it? And for that matter, as far as we are aware, brains are just, an arrangement of matter in this universe. What made the brain outside of the universe in which all matter is contained exactly?
The Oxford Dictionary cannot exist without a brain, but the universe existed without a creator. That is impossible. Logically speaking, it is absolutely illogic. Doesn't make any sense.
Yes, the argument you are making is illogical and doesn't make any sense.
So, let me tell you, even though I'm not a scientist,
You don't say.
so I don't want to be one,
You don't say.
I'm a little poor, a believer in Jesus Christ.
You don't say.
I walk through his grave by his grace and I ask him for his mercy. But let me say one thing about the human DNA. Just one thing about the human
Everybody sit down, shut up, and listen to the expert. He's about to cook.
being. The human DNA is made out of 3.1 billion bits of information. 3.1 billion bits of information. If I were to convert that into words and write those words on an A4 sized paper, 500 words per page, it would take me 600,000 pages to write one person's DNA.
This is more of the, look, a big number argument, which as I have just demonstrated, isn't much of an argument. Look at it like this. So you wonder how all of this could happen spontaneously, even over 14 billion years. But think about this. So, for every grain of sand on the planet, there are about 10,000 stars in the observable universe. The whole universe, beyond what we can observe, may be much larger than that. I've seen estimates as high as 250 times bigger, and I'm sure it could be even higher than that potentially. So we are talking enormous numbers already. In our galaxy, there are about 200 billion stars, most likely. Over its history, there have been a lot more than that, but we'll call it 200 billion today. Let's say, just estimate, each one has 5 planets. That seems a reasonable estimate, and 1% of those planets is probably habitable, within the habitable zones of its star. We know this because we found 6,000 exoplanets, which is a very small number, I know, but it's a pretty random distribution of these planets, and 1% of those falls in the habitable zone of its star. So that's a trillion planets in the galaxy. About 1% is habitable, potentially. That's 10 billion in this galaxy alone. How many galaxies are there in the observable universe? Now, I've seen estimates anywhere from 500 billion to 2 trillion. So pretty big numbers there. 10 billion times anywhere from half a trillion to 2 trillion. And then times maybe 250 for the whole size of the universe. That is a lot of potentially habitable planets. We had 4.5 billion years on Earth for advanced life to emerge. But in those other planets out there, multiply all of those by 4.5 billion years. Let's just assume, I know it's a false assumption because the range will be very wide. Let's assume that the average age of a planet in the universe is about 4.5 billion years, just like the Earth. Let's just assume that. It may be lower, it may be higher, who knows? Let's just assume anyway. If it is that, we're talking 4.5 billion years times the total number of planets. The total number of planets that's habitable, at least, anywhere from 10 billion times half a trillion to 2 trillion. These are big numbers. I mean, it's hard to keep track of just the numbers we're adding together here and multiplying together here. That is an enormous number of chances for life to emerge. You want to talk about big numbers. Numbers like that, I think, outdo anything this guy can bring up.
You bring the entire encyclopedias of the world together, they will get nowhere near the intelligence in your DNA, my dear friend. And you're telling me
It's not intelligence, it's a pattern, and patterns arise spontaneously in nature. I shouldn't really say spontaneously, it's not necessarily spontaneous. I mean, they are operating on natural laws, so it doesn't have to be truly spontaneous. It's not really random. It just appears to be random to the human mind a lot of the time.
you want me to believe in a Big Bang?
I don't want you to believe in anything. Frankly, I don't really give a shit what you believe.
And yet, there's almost 8 billion people live on the face of this planet as we speak, but no one's fingerprint is the same as the other.
Right.
Pretty sure that's not true, but so what if it is? Who cares?
That's not a fluke.
Right.
That is a deliberate and intelligent creation.
Prove that. You're just asserting that. You gotta prove that. I mean, no two snowflakes are the same, it is said. I'm not sure if that's really true either, but regardless, snowflakes, even if there are a lot that are the same, there are a lot of snowflakes, and they exhibit an enormous range of patterns, incredible patterns, and God himself is not coming down and putting these patterns together. This is, as far as we can tell, the result of natural processes and, natural laws of the universe. So where comes the need for a God in this picture?
By this intelligent being whom we as Christians believe and claim to be God.
You can believe that, but you have yet to prove that. You've just asserted, look at these big numbers. Don't these big numbers prove God? No, and even if they did, you've still got a big problem because they don't prove your God. They might prove a God. I don't think they do, but let's say they did. How do we know it's your God?
Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is the cause of creation, not just an explosion on its own. And
here's the thing, buddy. You've got a book, maybe even a couple books, but you're not the only one. The Jews got books, the Muslims got books, the Hindus got books, the Buddhists got books, the Taoists got books. Well, how do you say that? Taoists. They got books. The Zoroastrians got books. The Samaritans got books. Everybody's got a book. If you want me to believe your book instead of those other books, you got to show me why your book is more true or correct than those books. What makes your book worth believing over all those other books? And in fact, I think really none of those other books is worth believing, at least literally. You might find some wisdom in them. I think there's plenty of wisdom in the Bible and the Torah, the Quran. I think you can find wisdom a lot of places. But wisdom alone is not enough. You need to give me reasons to believe your book over all the other books. I see no reasons to believe any of them.
Even though there was an explosion, what caused the explosion, who caused the explosion, and who controlled the explosion?
What caused the explosion? Well, hell if I know. I'm not a scientist, but I don't have to know. I don't have to answer that question to say, I don't accept your answer. Who caused it? Well, I don't think anybody did. I don't think there is a who to that. Who controlled it? I don't think anybody did. I think it was a self-controlled thing once it just, set off by the natural laws created in the moment of said explosion.
I'm not a scientist, but let me say this as well. The scientists claim that when the explosion happened, there was an immense heat, because anything explodes, there is heat being released. So everything was heated up. So everything expanded, and when the universe cooled down, contracted. Mm-hmm. One scientist...
I'm not sure what he's saying there. He made it seem like the universe contracted, but the universe didn't contract. It's that... So when the Big Bang happened, there would have been a couple different kinds of elements created. And those elements would have been widespread all throughout the cosmos, and giant clouds of those elements would have, I guess, collapsed in on themselves to make the first stars, and those stars would have created the first other elements, and then created other stars which were operated in very different ways, and then resulted in titanic supernovas which created even more elements. And this process went on for a very long time and continues to this day. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if he was saying that the universe itself contracted or not, but potato, potato, I guess it's not that important, is it?
Only spoke about the expansion and the contraction element, not...
It seems like he is saying the universe contracted. The universe itself didn't contract on itself. It has been expanding the whole way as far as we can tell.
The whole universe. He said, let's just look at this point, expansion and contraction. Who said to the universe, when the explosion happened, who said, how fast should you expand? Or how slow? And how fast or how slow should you contract?
I would say that had to do with things like gravity and dark energy and dark matter, and also quantum fields.
He said, if the expansion or the contraction, he took it down to the nanosecond. He said, if that, a nanosecond, by the way, is the speed of light passing a strand of hair, that is called a nanosecond. Light.
I'm not sure if that's correct. Is that correct? I don't think that doesn't sound correct, does it? Does it? I don't know. I'm not going to look it up. I'll look it up later.
Travels 300 kilometers. I don't know how many miles that is. I do it the Australian way. Please excuse me. But it travels 300,000.
So, is he an Australian Orthodox priest for like the Russian Orthodox Church or the Greek Orthodox? It seems like he's very attached to the Greek Orthodox Church. I don't know if the Russian Orthodox Church is that attached, but he seems like... So he is a Greek Orthodox priest from Australia or in Australia?
1,000 kilometers a second. That's the speed of light. 300,000 kilometers a second. That's probably, I don't know, close to 200,000 miles.
Okay, interestingly enough, now I sort of hear some Australian in his accent, whereas before I was just kind of hearing like, another accent I can't really put my finger on. Is he from... Oh my God, this is blowing my mind. Oh, wow.
A second. Imagine a speed traveling at this enormous pace, passing a strand of hair. Mm-hmm. That's called a nanosecond. Look at the perfection of God. He said...
What in the name of non sequitur just happened?
If that expansion and contraction was faster a nanosecond or slower a nanosecond, life wouldn't have existed. You're telling me
Where does that conclusion come from exactly? I don't think that conclusion is correct, my good sir.
all this, there was no brain controlling it?
Correct. So that's the psychedelic Orthodox priest of YouTube. He's been on some pretty big shows lately. He was on Patrick Bet David, I think is his name, complaining about gay people. He has a lot of videos complaining about gay people and Greece legalizing gay marriage recently. He attributed it to leftists, even though it was the conservative government of Greece that legalized gay marriage. But watch this guy's videos. His name is Mari Emmanuel. And boy, his videos are really something. They're each like around 3 minutes long. They'll usually have somebody else talking first, like a TikTok video of some insane person saying something insane. Or just, somebody wearing pretty makeup, a man wearing pretty makeup, and he's like, he has feelings about it. And then it goes into him talking in like an Orthodox church, and it's very interesting stuff because like he puts some echo on it and has this like wild music playing. I'm telling you, man, it's like a visual and audio LSD trip from hell because he's talking in them each time. So check them out because they're pretty wild. But yeah, that's our psychedelic Orthodox priest. I hope you enjoyed the show because I don't know, man. This guy is so weird. I can't help but enjoy him. Sometimes, even if I know somebody is objectively terrible and misleading people, if they're interesting, I'll give them a little bit of a pass. So he gets a little bit of a pass with me. He may be a bigot and a terrible hater, but I tell you what, he sure is interesting, and sometimes that's all you need. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, or didn't enjoy it, or whatever you wanted to feel. I hope you felt it. And be safe out there. Have a good one.